That's good.
Yeah, there's kind of, like you said, not much to necessarily go on.
Mm-hmm.
First, did you hear that she mentioned at least what kind of the format's supposed to be? She mentioned that there's supposed to be an introductory paragraph, a body, where you cover whatever you mentioned in the introductory paragraph, and then a conclusion at the end. So at least we now kind of know what the general format of the paper is supposed to be.
A generic essay.
Yeah, basically. Because before that, we just, there was some discussion of, should it be an outline form? Should you just list, this question, here's the answer, this question, here's the answer. So not really sure what we're supposed to be doing with that.
Probably most of the page just explaining the intro.
Which is good, because we've got 3,000 words to cover.
Yeah.
Now, the problem that I have most with the actual case is what are we really trying to solve?
Yeah.
Because like Rachel said in class, the employees seem relatively happy.
Right. It sounds like what they're trying to do is prevent something from happening with the employees. Like they're seeing early signs of something declining and they're feeling uncertain. And so I think that they're probably trying to take some kind of early action approach.
Kind of like preventative maintenance.
Exactly.
Makes sense. I can believe that too. One of the curiosities is going to be, how do you deal with the differences between each location? That's one of the reasons I actually posted a question to the guys in the UK. How would you deal with this?
And I was reading your answer, and yours was a little bit different. But I mean, we can go over our answers. So you can go first, and then I'll go, and then Shawn will go.
Okay.
So we can all just kind of explain and then see where we are.
The way I saw the relevant issues is that the most relevant issue is how do you keep the workforce ready and able to get back up to speed quickly and with quality when the demands and the orders increase.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do scale down your workflow, which apparently the guy doesn't want to, you can get into trouble where, suddenly we've got 50,000 orders. Quick, what do we do? How do you hire those people back? And then you got as you were saying, the employees with the feeling uncertainty because of the economic downturn. There are cash flow issues due to length of time from inception from project to payout. And since it's all capital equipment, it could be 2 years or so. It's a horrible thing. And the client is afraid that the employees will seek more stable and certain employment elsewhere. Like just said, there's other places nearby, even in the downturn, they could probably get work elsewhere. As you mentioned, that since the employees are interested in staying in the company, they do have an effective commitment. They like the place, they like the employer, they want to be there. So pretty much the only thing that he needs to do from that is figure out a way to kind of keep that there, keep them interested, without, and therefore get rid of the uncertainty as much as possible. As I said, uncertainty is damaging their emotional state. The leader, at the very least, is good in that he's trying to solve the problem. He sees that it's possibly coming up and trying to figure out a way to take care of it. One of the things I came up with last night during the reading was actually the concept of empowering employees. The idea of talking to the employees and going, this is the situation. How do you think we should solve it? That way they get involved in the answers and they get, kind of, empowered to help be part of the company. And I think that's a relatively decent way to try to be able to help convince them of things. And one of the reasons I asked the Bath people was about the difference in cultures.
Yeah.
Because if they're a higher power distance on average in the UK, then...
Is it a higher power distance?
I don't think so.
I feel like it's about the same.
But, and you're right. From what I've seen and when I've talked to them, it seems very similar to America. But I'd be interested to hear Sonia's perspective, because she's from Spain.
Yeah.
So that'd be an, but admittedly, we're not worrying about that since it's, you know, Liverpool instead
little
of
bit different.
Spain,
Mhm.
so not quite as important. Any thoughts?
Okay. Well, I'll just start with the relevant issues. Obviously, with the early evidence of dissatisfaction and confusion in the company, I think they are trying to accomplish some preventative maintenance. There's clear evidence of effective commitment. Employees want to stay. They enjoy working in the company. I think that they're happy with the management situation, but right now managers are looking to see what they can change themselves so that they can motivate their employees and kind of stop the decline and job uncertainty. So what they can do is set goals for them, give feedback, allow employee participation. Job specialization is involved. These people have been working here for a long time. They've accomplished certain trades.
I certainly they mentioned that they're journeymen.
Yeah,
They've
they
passed
don't
through
just
the
hire anybody. They go through a certain process. They put them through extensive training. So these people are definitely here to stay. I feel like they don't want to leave because of the job specialization as well. And
It would certainly be a horrible loss because then you'd have to train somebody up through apprenticeship all the way
they
to
don't
journeyman
want to pay people extra money. It's going to cost more in the long run if they fire these people. So I think they should show that empowerment and appreciation of the employees and say, look, we're not going to fire you because you've come all this way. You've given us great production and made the company look good. I took it as they were trying to form an alliance, and so it would be a threat to the company, but it might be a good temporary solution. And a way that we could find out whether it's good or not, whether it's working, is if we get employee feedback. I think that's the biggest thing. And also to establish a test site. So we either work here in the US or over in the UK.
It'd be interesting to see exactly what the client means by alliance as well.
Yeah.
Because if they're just talking
Is it a big
sales
alliance? What department alliance? I mean, there's different things that they could be looking into. I feel like what they're saying is it's a kind of production, hiring more salespeople.
because the way I read it was that they're trying to get out and form like marketing alliances and sales alliances with other people. Like, you know, you need our product, and we need your sales team selling our product.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. And if it's something like that, that's what they're talking about, then I think that could be very easily explained as a distinctly positive
I think
situation.
if you do bring in a new sales team, it's definitely positive. However, there could be implications where it differs from the location. The way that you market something in a different country could be completely different. And I think that we really need to look into how both are being managed. I think they said that they're both being managed pretty much the same way, so we probably shouldn't have to worry about sales. But
Now you bring it up, you probably need at least 2 sales managers.
yeah,
You know, one that knows the sales laws and the sales techniques of England, and one that is an American sales team. So
and then in the end, they need to form an alliance and be in constant communication with each other. I think that the most important thing is definitely getting the feedback of the employees, though, because we need them to be happy in order to have a good production line and a work environment. Obviously, we don't want the business declining, and we don't want employees being unhappy. It doesn't make for a good work environment. So I would go for a test site first before we actually put into effect a permanent kind of alliance.
So pick one of the cities too.
Yeah, as in we would form an alliance with another company, like another sales firm or whatever, and we would bring that into the Arizona firm. Or we'd bring it into the one in Liverpool.
So what you guys are trying to do is fix the trouble of having not enough work.
well, that's one of the issues, because if you can get rid of that, and you can solve a lot of problems. Not so much. That's not quite so much an OB perspective as it is simply, business management. But it certainly would help to solve a lot of the issues that they're having. Is just being able to actually make, get more business. And the idea of testing out on one location first instead of simply unleashing it on the entire company at once.
Yeah.
It seems like a very risky.
Well, that's why we wouldn't want to have it used in both locations at the same time. That's why, like what I said was, we would use the one solution of the alliance in one of the locations for a short amount of time or a certain amount of time, and then get the employee feedback. So let's say we would bring in the new sales people and what was it? We would bring in the new salespeople and we'd have an alliance and we would check back with employees maybe 3 to 6 months later, and we'd do a survey or one-on-one interviews, and then we could ask the actual people who were involved in the alliance and the salespeople themselves who were brought in what they thought of the whole process and see, did this really work? And then we can continue to make it a long-term effect.
Well, it seems like a very slow solution in my opinion.
Alternatives.
I mean, going being proactive and trying to increase production shows employees that you are putting in effort, but getting more customers is a very slow procedure in my opinion. I didn't really see any conflicts in this case. I only saw conditions we have to work around, such as basic premise, like she said, it's insecurity with their jobs. So what we have to do is remedy and recover their confidence. So what I thought were, there's 30 years of reputable, reputation. They've never really had much problems before, from what I can see. And although they're very satisfied with their management and the employees and have effective commitment, their job satisfaction could be increased because one of the aspects was promotions, like availability of promotion. When it says it has this flat structure, I took that as there's no really movement or room for promotion. Also, I noticed all their workers are journeymen, not masters. So if they had that opportunity, whereas you gave them those opportunities, but you perhaps maybe stall their salary or even maybe reduce it, or the CEO takes a cut to show or lead by example somehow, it shows proactive actions and other means and being risky, in my opinion, by hiring salesmen or making partnerships. Let's see, other things I noticed. There weren't really much to go on, so I tried to make other assumptions. I thought of Arizona. What's Arizona? It's a coastal state. So it's close to borders. It's probably gonna have immigrants or migrant workers. They usually have different values. They tend to be more family oriented.
Well, they're also going to be a higher power distance too, so
Yeah.
they're going to look for more authoritative. So how would that look if a manager or CEO was getting a pay cut?
Yeah.
And say, oh, this person's making only a little bit more than me. They're not as high up as I thought. So that could be an impact too. And I think that's the other thing. We're not really looking at the demographics exactly. They're not telling us who their employees are, because the employees in Liverpool could be completely different people than in Arizona. And I think that, that just brings in a whole new set of solutions, because if that's the case, then we would have to have a higher power distance manager in Arizona and then maybe a lower power distance in Liverpool, and see how that works.
Now, the problem though is the use of the word migrant, because if they're journeymen, they've been around for a while, they
Yeah.
really wouldn't be migrant. They might be immigrants.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, that, and that's entirely possible.
But they